The Biden administration finds itself with two very conflicting agendas. While President Biden advocates for well-paying labor jobs, car makers are saying they're struggling to meet those demands because of the investments that are needed to transition into all-electric vehicles. I sat down with White House National Climate Advisor Ali Zaidi for more on the administration's agenda and where they see the climate agenda moving forward.
No, I think the president's been really clear. We see record profits, and that should translate into record contracts. I think longer term, here's what I see. Number one is the price of the core technology continuing to come down. Lithium-ion batteries in August reduced prices by 9% month over month, 31% year over year. And we continue to see improvement on that cost trajectory. We're seeing more and more investment pack into this transformation. The U.S. is now the number one nation that's attracting capital into this transformation, over $210 billion committed against this objective. So I think there's a lot to navigate as the transition takes place, including building out charging infrastructure, having the supportive, resilient supply chains. But this is a road we can travel. We can travel it together. We can travel it in a way that produces not only electric vehicles, but good-paying union jobs.
You've heard the UAW workers say before, the concern with the EV transition is that these cars don't require as many workers. At the same time, you've got other jobs that are being created with batteries moving forward. How do you get the buy-in from particularly labor unions on this EV transition when they have spent decades building ICE cars?
You know, we have the best workers in the world. That's part of our competitive advantage as a country. As we write this next chapter of the automotive journey, we've got to invest in those workers, and we've got to bring them into this broad supply chain. There's a whole industry that stands behind that final assembly. The input materials being sourced from states all across the country, the batteries, and frankly, before the batteries even, the input materials that go into them, the anodes, the cathodes, the raw lithium supplies, and others. And in all of those, we have an opportunity to not just deliver the product, but have this be a moment of uplift for workers and the American middle class. So that's how we're focused, is how do we win as much of the finish line as possible, not just put electric vehicles on the road, but have them be stamped made in America, with products sourced in America, with workers who are being paid good wages, good benefits, and have the right to bargain.
Let's talk about where oil is right now. We're quickly approaching $100 a barrel. When you think about oil production under this administration, we're reaching record levels. At the same time, you've got, with you leading the way, the administration talking about this transition to net zero, away from fossil fuels. How do these two agendas move in tandem when there is pressure on the administration to act in trying to bring gas prices down?
Well, we've got to walk and chew gum at the same time, to use a bit of a cliche. We've got to meet the American consumers where they are. There are people who have to pump up gasoline to get from point A to point B. We need to make sure that they are not absorbing either the cost of Russia's aggression in the Ukraine, which has impacted dramatically global markets, or corporate profits and inefficiencies that are being subsidized by consumers. So we've got to make sure that that we're meeting that demand. The president's used extraordinary tools, working with allies and partners, releasing on a strategic basis reserves of petroleum to stabilize the market, working to make sure there's adequate supply. But he's been clear all along that the path to energy security, to consumer energy security, is shifting to clean energy. You look at the volatility of global oil prices, and motor gasoline over the last 20, 25, 50 years, and you look at the volatility of electricity prices on the retail side over that same time period, and it's two totally different stories. One, we control our destiny because we generate that source of energy here at home. It's not traded on global market. Those wires that carry electricity long ways don't reach overseas. And they produce electricity cleaner and more efficiently to get folks plugged in. So whether it's hydrogen or it's battery electric, hybrid, there are strategies here for us to boost energy security, consumer energy security, and we're chasing after that.
Let's talk about the conversation that's been happening on the ground here during Climate Week. We heard from Treasury Secretary Yellen talk specifically about the economic risks that stem from climate change. You know, I think the number she quoted was $3 trillion in terms of what needs to be invested to get to that net zero goal in 2050. And yet, when you think about the big companies, there feels like there has been a shift, at least in the public declarations, in how committed they are because of the backlash that has happened politically. What are you hearing behind the scenes?
I think what we're hearing behind the scenes is that smart money is still chasing climate solutions, and that we've got to find ways collectively to get that capital to flow volumetrically more significantly and to flow faster.
Have you seen it accelerate?
We have seen it accelerate. If you look at just what's happened in the last year since the president signed the Inflation Reduction Act, $240 billion of capital has been committed to expanding clean energy deployment and manufacturing here in the United States. 100 new factories and counting to manufacture those products here in the United States. Projects the size of the Hoover Dam repeated on a regular basis in terms of imagination and then steel in the ground here in the U.S. So I think the trajectory is very clear. We know what the solutions are, and the opportunity is massive. So I think that's why folks are chasing these solutions, whether it's the private equity and the venture capital funds who are making the bets with their capital allocation, whether it's the lenders in this space figuring out new ways to underwrite based on the technologies and the market demand, or it's the corporates who are stepping up and taking action. But we need a lot more of it, and we need a lot more of it right away.